Remember those long nights playing Pokemon in your bedroom? The wind hitting the window, the excitement of training or finding a new Pokemon to add to your team, or maybe you're fighting the Elite Four for the first time. You have a team you chose, and you are just preparing to fight the Elite Four and to become a Pokemon champion. You don't realize it yet, but this will be a core memory, something that you look back on, something that holds you together, almost like a safety net. Who would have thought that a memory playing a game would be so important to you? But it was, and it still is to this day. After all, it's only a game about capturing digital monsters. How could it be so life-changing? Wow, look at that, you're fighting Lorelei and you're winning. It's like that you're glued to the screen, unaware of what's going on around you. Pokemon was the only thing that mattered to you in this time in your life. These were the days when you could have as much fun as you wanted to, and there were no responsibilities holding you down. You dreamed about Pokemon, you played Pokemon, you spoke about Pokemon. You're already halfway through the Elite Four. You defeated Lorelei and Bruno with ease. Could this be the time that you win? Could you become the champion? Ah yes, Agatha and her ghost types. They were strong, but your team was built to be stronger. You just defeated Agatha. You're inches away from being a Pokemon champion, but there's only one person in your way. Lance, the Dragon Master who is fierce. You've never gone this far before, but you're determined to win. You take down Lance's Pokemon one by one, and you're so close to winning. This is it. Dragonite versus Dragonite, but can you win it? Unexpectedly, Lance wasn't the only person you had to fight to become champion. Your rival had become champion before you, and now it's between you and him. His Pokemon are fully grown now, and a lot stronger than when you fought them before. Can you win this battle, or will you lose?
Boom!
Gotcha, bitch!
No, 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 no! Wait! Wait! Huh?
You won. You defeated your rival and become the Pokemon champion.
Are you getting the new Pokemon game? It looks really good. I mean, look at this Pokemon Fidough. It's adorable, isn't it? Defo worth the $60 just for this cute bread dog.
I don't think the new games are that good.
He's a monster.
Pokemon is all about choices. Before you even buy the game, you have a choice of 2 copies, Red and Blue, Diamond and Pearl, X or Y. This is the fundamental part of the experience of Pokemon. When you're in the game, you have the ultimate choice to make: grass, water, or fire. This simple choice of 3 different types makes the game far more complicated than what you might think. First of all, imagine you pick Bulbasaur. That means that Brock is easy and Misty is easy, and the Pokemon that you capture don't need to be so type effective against those first gyms because you have that core staple to defeat them. Then let's say that you pick Squirtle. Brock will be easy, but Misty will be medium or maybe a little bit harder. And then when you get to Lieutenant Surge, that's when the game gets really hard. And then let's say that you pick Charmander. Brock and Misty then become hard mode. And then once you get to Lieutenant Surge, the game gets easier because no longer are you fighting against such harder types. This is why choices were important in the normal games. But as the games have progressed and evolved, I've noticed that it's taken more of the choices away rather than given us more. When Pokemon first came out, it was one of the few games that gave us choices and variety, but not at the cost of quality. So what happened, and why does Pokemon feel so outdated and less free than what it was before the Switch era of games? It's true, our expectations of Pokemon when playing those 2D DS and Game Boy games were entirely different to what we have today. Well, firstly, let's talk about the decision that Game Freak decided to make, which was to limit the choices in the game with the Pokemon that you can have on your team. Why did they remove Pokemon and then put other Pokemon through paywalls? Now, to be fair, they said the reason why they needed to do this was because of the hardware issues with the Switch. But instead of reeling back on the cheap and boring gimmicks that they added, they decided to cut parts of the cast that we've grown up to love away from the games. This was a terrible mistake from Game Freak, because all it did was make us go, well, none of these Pokemon are going to be in the next game, or some of them might and some of them won't, depending on the game. And also, with the gimmicks such as Galarian forms, or the Gigantamax forms, or the Mega Evolutions, you can bet that each of those forms might only be in 1 or 2 games more, and then disappear forever, making us ask the question, what's the point of even adding those gimmicks? Why not just make a game that's more fun, focus more on the story, focus more on side quests, and the cast that we already know and love? Now, when they first added Mega Evolutions, I really enjoyed them. I thought, yeah, this is really nice. It brought back old Pokemon into the meta, which was a real nice kind of variety update to those older Pokemon. And let's be honest, some of those older Pokemon really needed some love in those later games. But the gimmicks don't feel like additions or choices. It just feels like stupid gimmicks that aren't going to last very long. And the truth is, Mega Evolutions and Gigantamax forms and the new Terrestrialization forms, which is a real stupid name by the way, is that each of these forms just feel like the same gimmick, just reskinned. Mega forms and blah 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 forms feel just the same. Now hear me out. Imagine if you didn't have Gigantamax forms, but you had voice acting from the characters, and then you had a full cast of the Pokemon that you already knew that you didn't have to purchase through DLC. This would have made the game far more loved than what it is now. Let's just be honest about that, because at least with that it sets a standard for future games to come. Imagine if we had more regions, or maybe the graphics looked better and we had those animations from Let's Go Pikachu that looked really good, which we didn't have in the later game. And when I look at the trailers for Pokemon Violet and Scarlet, I just think they look meh. And so what if they give you bike Pokemon where you can ride up the walls and ride across the landscape? Again, it's just taking away my choice. What if I don't like that Pokemon? I mean, I might like it, but I might not. What if I don't want to use it? Am I stuck with using this Pokemon for travel? Even if it's not battling in my team, it's with me. Why not allow my team of the chosen Pokemon I choose be the way that I get around the landscape? And depending on my team, it changes up where I have to go through. If I have a flying Pokemon, I have to go through the sky, and then there's sky things. And if I'm on the ground using like a Rapidash riding, then it gives me ground stuff to go through, and each Pokemon changes the gameplay with the environment and the type of Pokemon that you use. That would have been way better than giving us this Pokemon bike thing, which is just stupid. I mean, who do you think you are, Pokemon? You ain't Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D. What is it with these monster animes and motorbikes? What is it about being on a motorbike in the anime universe that is so appealing? But the point stands, I want to use my Pokemon, and I want to choose my Pokemon, and that might not be the legendary bike Pokemon this game offers. Maybe I want to ride around on a Lugia, or maybe I want to, I don't know, spin on a Claydol, but at the end of the day, it should be my choice as the player to choose how my game goes. When I hear rumours that you can skip all the overworld trainers, I just think to myself, it's clear that the open world format and the battle screens don't work together. At least that's what I think. I personally think that they need to update the battle for future games, because it's like they want to update everything else, but the actual core gameplay, which doesn't work in the open world format that they're trying to make the games lean into, just don't work together. And this is the true problem with the modern day Pokemon games. They're halfway in the past and they're halfway in the future. It has 3D models, but an outdated RPG battling system. It has 3D movement with an open world, but when entering a battle, it still takes you out of that open world and back into this battle screen where movement isn't a thing and you're just given 4 moves. And with the success of Pokemon spin-off games such as Pokemon Go, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, it's clear that it's the cast of the Pokemon in the series that holds the franchise together more so than the gameplay. In my opinion, Pokemon needs to go further. It needs to rework their battling system to an open world fighting system. But the problem with this is, can the Nintendo Switch hardware even handle it? If you look at Nintendo's other games such as Super Mario and The Legend of Zelda and how they began and how they are now, they're totally different games. I mean, look at The Legend of Zelda with 2D sprites and basic combat, to the Breath of the Wild with this open world and advanced puzzles and movement that can be done through the air and through the ground, and there's so many different ways to play this game. The gap is far wider than Pokemon games. And if you look at Pokemon, which started with the basic RPG mechanics, which it still holds to this day, it hasn't changed much. It's still the same games as those original Red and Blue games, or that original Pokemon Green game. Pokemon is going through an identity crisis. That's why the latest series is called Scarlet and Violet. It's literally telling you it's a goth girl with existential crisis problems, and it's about to make the biggest mistake in its life. It's time for Pokemon to throw away the lazy and obnoxious gimmicks. It's time they add voice acting and better stories and side quests and a more advanced open world battling system, and start moving in the right direction. The last few Pokemon games may have been good, but they don't stand on the same legs as Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey. Pokemon needs to spend more time working on a game that will blow its players out of the water. Something that really shakes up and sets a concrete standard for the future Pokemon games to come. A Pokemon game that gives us choices with different ways that we can handle it. a game that feels like an experience and not a gimmick. Look at this Pokemon concept art by the artist Shen YH. Look at how it fills you with wonder, it makes you want to explore this world. Look at how the battling system is done in this concept art, and just look at how amazing this looks. And then think about the modern day games and the trailers that we've gotten, and imagine if it was something more like this. Something that feels like a wonder, something that kind of brings back that childhood memory or wish that Pokemon was real and you were in that Pokemon world, running across the landscape and capturing all those Pokemon. This is the game that we want. And it's time that fans stop treating Game Freak and the Pokemon Company as an indie game that can't make mistakes. If you truly feel that Pokemon isn't living up to its standards, skip the game. It's okay to skip a few games and wait until they release something that you think is worthy of playing. And that's all that I'm saying, is that it's time for us to really sort of push Pokemon in the right direction as the fans. Because just to buy whatever they release, regardless of what it is really not helping the franchise as a whole. And I know that one day we will have that Pokemon game that really blows us out of the water. But it's up to us as the fans to make that focal, talk about what we want, and to push it in the right direction. So until then, I'm not going to be playing the next Pokemon game. And I'm going to wait until there's a game that really pushes the standard of what a Pokemon game is. And I will always love Pokemon. It's a big part of my childhood. I spent day and night playing Heart Gold and Silver, and Diamond and Pearl, and even the originals Red and Blue, and playing on Game Boy and DS. I played ROMs and Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, but I'm waiting for that Pokemon game that really blows us out of the water. And it will come. It will.
Short steps, deep breath, everything is alright. Chin up, I can't step into the spotlight. She said, I'm sad, somehow without any words. I just stood there, searching for an answer. When this world is no more, the moon is all we'll see. I'll ask you to fly away with me until the stars all fall down. They empty from the sky, but